Yes, done. Okay. Of course, comments and questions will be posted here. Maybe you see them, of course, you are familiar with that. This is the first time I use StreamYard, actually.
That's a good
I
thing.
already used, yeah, I'm familiar with Zoom. Okay, yes. So we have some people join us. It's 14.
Good to know. Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, Alawi Rashid Hadi. Yes, do you hear us? كتسمعونا مزيان? Maybe from time to time I will use Arabic.
Sure. Please do.
Thank you. I think so. We start in maximum 3 minutes, okay? السلام عليكم. كتسمعونا مزيان؟ Do you hear me well? Can you see us and hear us well? Okay, yes, thank you. Yes, yes. السلام عليكم. بالنسبة للناس اللي كيسمعونا غادي ننتظروا واحد 5 دقائق أو 3 دقائق على ما الناس يلتحقوا باش نبداو إن شاء الله هذا الحدث. حدث اليوم غادي يكون عن تحدث عن فرص الدراسة في أوكرانيا وكذلك تجربة التعليم والتدريس عن بعد باللغة الإنجليزية بطبيعة الحال. ومعنا الدكتورة فيكتوريا من أوكرانيا. اليوم ستتحدث عن موضوعين مهمين. الموضوع الأول سيكون حول الدراسة باللغة بأوكرانيا، والموضوع الثاني حول تجربة أوكرانيا في التدريس عن بعد. يعني فقط ننتظر بعض دقيقتين يعني ريثما يلتحق الآخرون ونبدأ إن شاء الله. المرجو يعني الناس المهتمين تبارطاجيو هذا اللايف باش يكون ان شاء الله الاستفاده للجميع، واللي عنده اي تساؤل بطبيعه الحال يخلي حتى الاخر في كل فقره غادي نفتحوا باب التساؤلات، وان شاء الله غادي الدكتوره فيكتوريا غادي تجاوب عليهم اليوم. الا كتسمعوني مزيان لان دابا كنهضر ومع الكونيكسيون كنظن راها مزيان. الا كتسمعوني مزيان يعني طابيو يس ولا اوكي ولا. كذلك بالنسبه اللي عنده الاسئله باللغه العربيه ما كاين حتى مشكل، يمكن له يحط السؤال باللغه العربيه في الاخير وغادي نحاولوا نترجموه باللغه الانجليزيه باش تعم الاستفاده. Okay, thank you. All is well. Thank you. Very good. Okay, thank you very much. I think, Dr. Victoria, we can start, right?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon. Salam.
Salam, thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or maybe good evening to those who join us from Ukraine, I think. So today it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our guest speaker, who is going to talk to you about the study opportunities available for international students and for Moroccan students, of course, who would like to continue their studies abroad and looking for, of course, Ukrainian universities. And also she is going to talk about the experience of her country in implementing distance learning programs during COVID-19. So this event will be actually divided into two major issues: study opportunities available for international students in Ukraine, and COVID and distance learning program during COVID-19. So actually, I feel elated to introduce her to you today. As you know, if one takes closer look at the alchemy of the achieving person, two distinct virtues pop up. Besides perseverance and hard work, these are, the pioneering spirit and willingness. Our guest speaker is the living idiom, I would say, of a woman or a lady who happened to be born at the right place and at the right time. Of course, coupled with an impressive background. It was not therefore surprising that she has become the person she is now because of the virtues and values that were developed and nurtured in her during her education. Dr. Victoria Vdovenchiko has got MSc or master's degree and PhD in foreign policy and world history, Diplomatic Academy of Ukraine. Currently, she is an associate professor and researcher. She is working on the challenges of the European Union, Euro-Atlantic integration, hybrid warfare, strategic communication, collaborating with such international institutions as Kiev Boris Granchenko University. Dr. Victoria is one of the key experts on Italy's foreign policy in Ukraine and advisor for State Property Fund of Ukraine. Victoria is alumna of the Professional Fellows Program in 2011, collaborating with the Senator Steelman in Hartford, Connecticut. She is also one of the board members for Professional Governmental Association, or what is called PGA, which aims to enhance Ukrainian governance system by providing advisory support to the governmental institutions. Also, she is a co-founder of the NGO Institute of Politics and Governance, working with the good governance practices in Ukraine. Dr. Victoria also is a team leader of the project Cultural Code, and the list, of course, is so long. I'm happy and honored to have you today with us and join us for this webinar to talk and share your experience with Moroccan teachers, professors, and students who would like to continue and to know about study opportunities in Ukraine. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation, and I'm really honored to know such brilliant researcher. So before I give you the floor, Dr. Victoria, I just want to remind the audience that for questions, we will leave them till the end, and you can ask even in Arabic, and I'm sure Dr. Victoria would be pleased to answer all of your questions. So now, let's get started, and I will give you the floor, Dr. Victoria, by asking a question to give us a general idea about Ukraine, life in Ukraine, just from your perspective, things that we can see or places we can visit in Ukraine, just to have an idea about Ukraine. So take us from Morocco to Ukraine, then talk also about educational system in Ukraine, especially focus on higher education because Moroccans would like to continue their studies there. Thank you very much again, and the floor is yours, Dr. Victoria.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much, Nabil, for outstanding presentation, for so many minutes, so some kind of the awards. Please don't call me doctor, just call me Victoria. I think it will simplify so much communication. With a great pleasure, of course, to the audience. We are very kind of modest people, even for that. So I think it's one of the most interesting things about Ukrainians is that they are very open-minded people and, of course, very generous people. So if you want to come and visit, even virtually, to Ukraine, myself, I would give you kind of a tour because I'm Italian expert as well. So from Morocco, come to Italy first, and then from Italy make spots to Kyiv, Borispil Airport, one of the major airports in Ukraine. And about if you want to know, of course, more, nowadays, I think the gastronomic or ethnoculture will be something that will be splashes in your mind when we are talking about something which is one of the most outstanding things that we want to know from other cultures is, of course, how other cultures being perceived from our visuals, from our gastronomic entities, and of course from the traditions. So if you come to Kyiv, which is correctly being pronounced as our capital, it's about up to 5 million people who are living there. So it's a very ancient city itself, and there are some other cities who are about more than 1 million people on the west, on the east, also on the south. We also have a Black Sea, and that's something that if you want to enjoy, especially in the summer right now, the weather, you can come to Odessa. It's one of the major Black Sea ports. So if you want to continue your travels within the sea, you will have such an opportunity. Or if you prefer skiing, go to the west of Ukraine where there are Carpathian mountains. So kind of a lot of resorts are also there. So you will find a lot of things to visit, but also to see and to try. I know that Moroccan cuisine is very generous and bountiful in terms of ingredients, but Ukrainian cuisine as well. We are much on the north to, let's say, already in the European continent, but still, I mean, I think as much as hot as it is now in Ukraine, the same is hot in Morocco to some of the places. So it's up to 35 now. So I think now we are on the equal, thanks to the global climate change that we are happening, and of course the climate is changing there. You asked me to talk about higher educational system in Ukraine and what kind of opportunities Ukraine is bringing to its students. And of course, then we'll come to the distance learning during the COVID. So myself, I'm actually now an associate professor, but before used to be a teaching fellow to some of the university where I graduated from, by the way, in Ukraine, and then I was studying abroad. But firstly, I wanted to test myself being a student in Ukraine. So you can ask also the questions, how is it to be a student in Ukraine? Because I definitely know it from my skin, it's coming from student, then teaching also at the same university and different universities as such. So of course, it very much depends on the priority of your studies that you want to do, because as you know, one of the very globally developing sector that Ukraine is also a part of is IT. So a lot of IT, let's say faculties or departments, they are opening in major universities of not only Kyiv, but also Kharkiv, Lviv, or Dnipro and Odessa and many other cities. If you like English language, you definitely maybe use Grammarly. It's one of the resources to check your pronunciation, but also how you are spelling. So Grammarly is a Ukrainian-based, actually, IT company having 2 headquarters in Silicon Valley and in Kyiv. And I've been to office of Grammarly. It's something amazing. So it thinks like, you're coming to the Silicon Valley itself, so to visit. So we have the major IT companies as well, where you will find the opportunities if you want to continue to have a let's say, opportunity to work after your studies for the IT, but not only. Let me tell you my example, because I'm more related to the international relations, as Nabil was presenting me, and of course, what kind of track I was doing myself being a student, and why it's possible and still interesting to do the education in Ukraine. And there are some kind of things that would be interesting for you to know and to follow. Firstly, one of the major countries with the universities actually in Eastern Europe, that's Ukraine. We don't say that. I've seen just today we are rating in. We have 6 major universities who are in the top 500 universities globally in the world. So it means they are kind of very impressive in terms of both their research side, but also teaching side. And of course, their students awards for that. And that's the universities which are situated in Kyiv, universities which are situated in Kharkiv, for example, that's eastern part of Ukraine, another city. Favorite and famous for various institutions having there. And also universities being in Lviv, which is a western part of Ukraine. If you're gonna Google that and you see yourself, Lviv being one of the most historical and coffee, as we call city, because if you want to try good chocolate and coffee, you definitely have to go to Lviv. And of course, there are studying opportunities also there happening. So related to the educational system, or to the higher system of the education in Ukraine, it's so different in any of the European countries. So we are the same. We are having the Bologna system in the qualifications. And of course, myself, I'm associate professor within Kyiv Boris Grinchenko University. It's one of very innovative universities itself, not, let's say, not so very much old as Bologna University or Oxford University, because they have more than 8 centuries already of their history. But still, since 19th century, the major universities, they were founded in Ukraine. There is only one university, Kyiv Mohyla Academy, that is dating back itself to the late Middle Ages. So up to that, you also can see it's one of prominent universities in Kyiv as well. So coming back to my university, why it's the most innovative, and what is it to be an innovative university nowadays, in particular in the 21st century? The core values, as you, Nabil, were telling, is how we are promoting the core values of ourselves, but also how do we do that through the studies and distance learning, as it is a worldwide challenge and also opportunity for all of us, for students, for the researchers, and of course for teachers and professors. We are the only university in Ukraine actually for having a focus on servant leadership. Servant leadership is one of the key values that you have to promote within yourself, to know why the social workers, why the volunteers movements are important, as well as they are developing, let's say, not only pragmatic but also inner side of yourself. So this university is very much focused on that. But not only. The servant leadership is how do you deliver yourself, deliver your services to the community. And these core values, so what do you do not only for yourself, for your company, but also to the people with whom you are living. And these are the things that I think they actually persuaded me to come to work for this university. I'm already working there for 4 years, but in general, I'm working as associate professor for 14 years already, and that gives us actually an opportunity also to develop ourselves as a teachers. So coming back to be our student, do we have an international department? Yes, of course, and we have international students who are coming to study with us. Of course, there are a variety of programs. You can do that within applying to the bachelor's, but also to the master programs, because the majority, we have the faculties or institutes within the universities. Now, I'm, for example, within the Faculty of Law and International Relations, but also working with Institute of Linguistics. There is Institute of Journalism, Institute of Human Institute of IT, by the way, Institute of History. So you will find everything you want, an Institute of Culture, Institute of Culture, by the way. So if you like culturing or dancing or music, you will definitely find the opportunity to come there, because we don't have to think that we are only, let's say, focusing on the IT. It's not true. I think every kind of a sector that is important now, or you feel yourself, your heart is open to, you have to promote it in yourself and to apply for the opportunities, studying abroad, maybe also studying in your country. So it depends on, of course, on the ambition of each and every one of us. We are having the students who are coming for us to within the Erasmus Mundus programs. I think you definitely know about that. So there are students coming from Western Europe as well, but not only, from Eastern Europe and many other countries of the world. Not only my university, many other universities like Kiev Taras Shevchenko University. I'm a graduator. I was a student there. Kiev National Economic University, for example, if you're focusing more or your priority will be accounting or finance or international relations, international economic relations would be your priority. Kiev Polytechnic University, of course, if you want to focus yourself on the IT and many other professions. Kiev Medical University, but not only Kiev, like Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr, and many other of the regional universities that you can find also the opportunities for international students already studying there. There are a lot of students also from Morocco coming to Ukraine. Of course, it depends on the priority and what kind of the field you would like to, but not only from Pakistan, for example, from India, the preference, of course, for the medical institutes or medical universities. But again, it's up to you to decide what kind of field you would like to continue on. Maybe you would like to change already the existing bachelor degree, and you would like to come to something new within the master degree. So I think it's a good opportunity for you to challenge yourself with something new. And Ukraine is definitely a multicultural country, and it's very much open to its international students and given a lot of opportunities for them to do that. We have actually representatives of our embassy within the Morocco, so you definitely can have a chance to contact them. But not only there are a lot of websites where you can read the information. I believe also in Arabic language, but I'm more than sure there are some. But of course, the preference and the focus, they are for English, German, and French. For kind of the information that you can find there. Maybe I will stop here. And Nabil, if you would like to focus more on the questions, so maybe to be concretely and precise, because as you know, teachers can talk a lot, but let's make it a dialogue rather than the monologue of mine.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now I will say doctor and professor.
Just
thank you very much.
Yeah. That's easy.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Victoria, for giving informative and interesting actually talk. Just would like to ask you about the language of instruction in Ukrainian universities. Is it English or French or Ukrainian language or mixed?
It depends which kind of university you're applying. Again, I can actually send you a couple of links later that Nabil, you can post to this video, and that each of colleagues who are listening to us or who would like to listen to us a bit later and to like to know more about the Ukrainian opportunities, it very much depends. The majority of the universities are challenging themselves, and they are already let's say English speaking. There are some of the faculties who are having the French language as their priority. For example, Kiev Taras Shevchenko University is having the faculties where you can find, for example, Institute of Philology. They have French department. And of course, the majority of the subjects there are based on French language. So, and for example, Institute of International Relations within Kiev Taras Shevchenko University or any other, they will also focus majorly, and 90% or 98%, but that will be in English language. And our professors, again, it depends very much which kind of university you're going to choose. I don't want to promote only Kiev, because Ukraine has a lot of cities where you can find amazing universities. Like I was nominated in Lviv, Vinnytsia, my native city, for example, which is a core medical university one of the priority for that, and there are many students, international students, so you can also Google that. Dnipro, for example, Odessa, where I have if you're focused, for example, on music, so you can actually focus on the major studies coming to conservatory in Lviv, Dnipro, Odessa, or Kiev, and Kharkiv, for example. We have one of the top law schools situated in Kharkiv as well, so it's the eastern part of Ukraine. So again, I'll be talking, of course, majorly about Kiev, because I'm based here for a moment, and I'm studying here, and I was studying there, and I'm actually teaching. So
of course, your university.
My brand will be within the Kyiv Boris Grimchenko University, but again, even if I will be promoting my own university, doesn't mean that any other universities do not have such a capacity. And in particular, Ukraine is a very, as I was telling you, friendly country and generous country. So therefore, we are looking forward to support our international students to come more to visit Ukraine, but also to study in Ukraine and stay in Ukraine, within a lot of international jobs being placed also here. I was having a chat with my, as you know, I'm Italian expert, so of course I'm chatting a lot with Italian colleagues. So some of them left Italy and they came to Ukraine. Why? Because there are much more job opportunities than in Italy for a moment. That's interesting thing to mention, but it's true. International students and international professionals, let's say, or young professionals or junior professionals or even mid-career professionals, they have much more of the, let's say, opportunity to come and find a job after the university studies, but not only when already they have Arabic, English, some other languages as their background. So you don't have to study Ukrainian language in order to study in Ukraine. So English will be much more than enough for you to focus yourself on the priority of your degree, let's say, of your field study, and then, of course, to continue study other languages if you're.
So if you would like to. Yes, if you would like to advise international students who would like to continue their studies in Ukraine, which language do they prefer? Is it English or Ukrainian to get to have more opportunities for their future career?
It very much depends. Why I was telling these two examples, because my Italian colleagues didn't know Ukrainian language. For example, the colleagues from the medical university, for example, from the one that I was mentioning from my native town, Vinnytsia, they were studying 1 year Ukrainian language, and they liked that. So they want to know more, because if you know the language, you definitely understand much more of the culture. So again, it's up to you. And
just talking about job opportunities for the future.
Yeah, it's very much depends.
Is it the same value if I learn in Ukrainian universities Ukrainian language? Is it the same value?
Yes, it's the same value. I can say it, particularly starting in 2020, 2019, 2020. Why? Because before it used to be a priority that everyone would like to study Ukraine. And I think it's correct. If you come to that country, at least to know the basic rules, how to move yourself, right, with the native language. But of course, being yourself, I would like to build yourself within the international career. You will have to find better opportunities within English, Arabic, maybe Ukrainian as well. So for that, but it's very much depends what kind of field you're going to be focused. So I don't say no, but still, if you come to Ukraine, of course, some basic rules for the Ukrainian language should be on your backside.
Okay, thank you very much again. How can international students get admission in Ukrainian university, like Moroccan students?
It's very much depends. So of course you are sending the application request or application form for that. Each of the universities has various stages. So again, for me, it's difficult to answer this question just because firstly, I need to have a concrete criteria or framework, right? So what kind of field you would like to focus yourself and what kind of program you would like to focus yourself. Because, for example, Ukraine is also full of business schools or MBA programs, right? So it doesn't matter for them, for example, your previous question, Ukrainian language, because all of the programs are 100% like English, and the admission is totally different for that. So when you're talking about the MBA program, so not only for master, but just as a, let's say, second or third education, that's totally different idea. So Nabil, sorry, I will be very broad answering this question, because again, it doesn't mean that I can't. It's just I need more of, let's say, maybe if some of the audience would like to ask themselves more concrete field, I'll be happy to answer you that. Because Ukraine, as any other countries, having public universities, national or municipal universities, private universities, we're having exclusive education there, like Ukrainian Catholic University, for example, which is based in Lviv, on the western part of Ukraine. If you visit, they have outstanding innovative programs there, even within MBA studies for a moment, or Kyiv Business School, or Institute of International Management, for example, again, has a headquarters in Geneva, but also it has a department in Ukraine. So it's totally different when we're talking about, let's say, MPA or MBA programs, right? So so I really need a kind of a more concrete framework, so to be precise in answering that.
Okay, of course, I think that in Ukraine there is of course private university and public university. So for international students, do you think that they get admission to private or public or both? So they have the same value?
Both of them. It doesn't matter which country you're coming from. So of course the criteria selection of the exams, or let's say interview, will be with you. So you will be on the equal base, let's say, tested. It doesn't matter where you come into the public institution, I mean public university or private university, because we would like to keep the quality of our university, for first of all open to everyone, but at the same time with some starting positions.
So do you think that is it true that the public universities provide scholarships, full scholarships to international students?
Actually, private universities
or partial scholarship. Yeah.
Private universities also do like that. For example, the example I was giving you, Ukrainian Catholic University, they provide scholarship as well. So, but you have to be highly competitive, let's say, applicant for that. Public universities also do provide scholarships, and they are also open for the international students. But even I would believe that private universities do that even with the more in terms of percentage. So, but it doesn't mean that this should stop you. I mean, it's not it's a common knowledge that each and every country is having the opportunities that the university present in some, let's say, several scholarship from, let's say, all of the world for the people who are applying there, but it doesn't mean that it should be a demotivator for you. No, not at all. It should be just vice versa, a much more of the motivator to apply and to prepare yourself for that just open the university that you would like to, let's say, study in. For example, maybe you will focus in the aviation university, where there are also universities like that. So again, technical universities or music academies or IR, so international relations, like in my case, that's the priority of finance and business. That's another priority. So the most important is, firstly, for those who are listening to us, is to answer the questions, what do you want to do after that? So after you finish the university, what do you want to do? So what brings your heart, so let's say, challenges? What opens or drives you more with the positive emotions? Because university is only a tool. The most important is what you receive. You receive the network of people with whom you're communicating. I think it's one of the most unbelievable, but at the same time sustainable and positive results for them. You receive the community support, but also you receive the tools for the knowledge. But it firstly comes to you yourself, I mean, to answer the questions, what do you want to do with this diploma, right? So with this certificate, if we talk about just courses or not degree programs, for example. We also have such opportunities. So if you answer yourself the question like that, so you definitely then you build yourself an action plan, and the action plan will be to Google simply to find the word Ukraine, to Google some of the major cities, the one I was telling you about, but also maybe if you have very specific issues with that, you will find also unique universities in other regions of Ukraine, and you will find what you want. So first of all, again, the capital is not the only city providing the education, high quality education. There are other cities of Ukraine providing also high quality education. I'm really kind of trying to focus with these names of the cities I was providing to you. So Kharkiv to the east, Dnipro to the center, Vinnytsia, for example, to the center, Lviv to the west. I was already recommending you some kind of Lviv Polytechnic University, for example, or some other universities, or Ivan Franko University, also very famous there and very old one, by the way. Odessa universities, they are very strong and very competitive. And of course, Kyiv universities that are situated in the capital.
Okay, yeah, yes. Could you please give us a general idea about what motivates international students to choose Ukraine? Because we know that others head to US, to Europe, to China, but I see that there is a trend, a tendency toward choosing Ukrainian universities, especially Moroccan students who would like to continue their studies there, and they apply for many for scholarships, and they head to universities in Ukraine. So what pushed them, what motivated them from your angle?
First of all, maybe I'll be a bit biased because I'm not an international student, so myself, because I'm talking about my own country. So at the same time, my communication with international students was about that they are curious about what's going on and the processes that the transformation of democratic transformations happen in Ukraine. So there's something motivates them to come, even from the Western democracies, for example. But not only. What I was telling you and why I was telling you previously, the example of my Italian colleagues, because we have a very competitive and open still job market. That's something that drives them even more to come to Ukraine, to study, to know the country, and then, of course, to start their own path of professional life, right? So maybe starting their own business, continuing some other studies, or continuing working for some international companies and organizations. We definitely are in need of that. So, and I think that's one of the criteria of priority why the international students are still coming and focusing ourselves in the into let's say vector of Ukraine, or come in and study and have opportunities to visit Ukraine as such. And for me, it's one of things that motivates me even more in terms of a teacher, or develop myself to build more of these bridges, intercultural bridges, that more of the international students will be motivated, but not only motivated, they will succeed in what they want. So what will be their scope or goal? Coming to Ukraine, studying to Ukraine, but also realizing their potential. So firstly, what we want to open the potential of each and every candidate who is coming to us. So I think it's one of golden trio, as we can say, for what I was mentioning. So firstly, it's the job market, the opportunities, of course, with the Arab languages. There are many companies working in Ukraine already with their offices open in many countries and cities, of Ukraine, but also competitive universities and approaches to the international students.
Okay, thank you very much again. So there are some students who don't have or don't get full scholarship, and would like to ask about whether life in Ukraine, is Ukraine expensive to live in?
You know, Nabil, I don't know how much is it expensive in Morocco, because I'm sorry, I've never been to a country. I would love to visit that. And for me to compare, I need some kind of criteria like that. if someone tells you that the life is cheap, never believe that, because life is cheap not in any country of the world. Because if you want to realize of your potential and like progress, right? So at the same time, depends which kind of city you're gonna focus and which kind of university. Of course, when you're focusing in the capital, I think in any kind of the capital of the world,
expensive.
It's much more expensive than in any regional, let's say, placement. So I think it's also a logical one. And of course, I mean, we have a lot of opportunities to calculate ourselves. Unfortunately, I don't know whether they are available in Arabic language. They definitely are available in the English language. That if you would like to find such forums, we can provide you such kind of links. I mean, there are always pros and cons, you know, like something is maybe more expensive, something is less expensive. But in terms of that, it's what do you want? So why do you want to continue and focus yourself studying abroad? So if you want to yourself to develop such kind of values from what we were already talking from the very beginning, Nabil, and this is what I really like, that you focus on that. Multicultural approaches, so that you want to develop yourself, your value business, you want to develop yourself within the criteria of how much you're tolerant and democratic and open. So I think it's a great opportunity to test yourself. So coming from the west to the east, right, to make a contrast, a balance to some extent.
Okay, thank you very much for insightful presentation. I think it's for more than 30 minutes. That's fine. I think we give the floor, the opportunity to the audience if they have questions. Okay, for the audience, thank you very much. I'm sure that you would be pleased to answer all of them. So for the audience, if you have any questions for the first issue about study opportunities in Ukraine, before we move on to the next part, which is the experience of distance learning in Ukraine. So you can even ask your questions in Arabic, okay? And thank you very much again, Professor Victoria. So you can ask your questions in English or in Arabic or even in French, or of course in Ukrainian or Italian. Okay, for those who follow us from maybe Ukraine. Yes, السلام عليكم مرة أخرى. اللي عنده أي تساؤل في هذه الفقرة الأولى، الموضوع الأول حول فرص الدراسة بأوكرانيا، يعني باللغة الإنجليزية أو حتى باللغة العربية. قبل أن نمر للمحور الثاني وهو التحدث عن تجربة التدريس عن بعد في أوكرانيا. إذا كان هناك تساؤل يعني مرحبا بكم. Okay, maybe this is a question. According to your experience, what are the jobs opportunities for the international students after ending or finishing their studies in Ukraine?
Thanks a lot for the question, Zakaria. If I'm not, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Thanks a lot for the question. And actually, I tried to partially already answer that, but I can focus for that even more. If you can focus me on what kind of field you would prefer yourself to have a job, for example. So if because that it's very much linked to the job opportunities. I'll explain you why. When you come
maybe Zakaria is interested in sports. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sports, yeah.
So if you come and if you're interested in sports, we have huge universities that are focused in sports. And definitely the job opportunities will be either you remain a professor, for example, like it was in my thing, in my career, you continue studying and being a trainer. And for some of the leagues, if we're talking about football or soccer, if depends what kind of field of sports you will be focusing on. So we have a lot of, let's say, opportunities for those already who are not in sports, for example, in physics or chemistry, which I think is innovative due to the COVID 2020 and 2019, but also Ukraine is already developing itself as a biochemistry hub, apart from being the IT hub itself. So it's another opportunity because some of the pharmaceutical companies are also thinking to focus and orient themselves into the Eastern market, Eastern European market, and they prefer to have some, let's say, basements or headquarters also in Ukraine. So it's definitely true. Then we come to, let's say, more which is related to my field, international relations or business, international business. My example of my Italian colleagues, that was a very vivid, let's say, example when the people not knowing even the Ukrainian language, but still having the degrees from Italy and from other countries, they came back to, they just started to search for the job, and they found much more opportunities in Ukraine than they found that in the home-based countries, let's say. So it's another thing. Maybe you already have a degree, and you would like to search for the job opportunities. So I think it's totally different meeting with Nabil and me for another lecture. Why? Because simply we have to focus ourselves how many of the international companies are already playing themselves on the market. So many example of Grammarly is one of the company. It's one of the examples. So it's an international company. It has, as you know, 2 headquarters, and of course one of them is in Ukraine situated, but it's not the only one company which is there. If you want to continue yourself in the medical career, let's say, we have a lot of doctors who are progressing them, and they are remaining to be in Ukraine, and they are working in our hospitals or institutions of health, let's say, and they continue their career. However, there you will need to know the language, definitely, because you will not be able to talk only in English with your patients. So if you want to continue the career, but I think it will help a lot. Particularly the private clinics will be more than willing to have international students because they have international clients. So definitely we have a medical tourism, as we call it, because a lot of people prefer Ukraine for, in this case, not expensive sum of money, where you can, let's say, have a not only resort, but just have medical programs for your body. And for that, we need, of course, international students who can equip that, right? So who can progress that. I hope I answered somehow your questions, but again, it very much depends what kind of field you would like to work in and what kind of background you already have or you would like to have in Ukraine. Ukraine is a multinational country, but also multi-opportunities country, if we can talk like that. My examples of already 6 fields of what I was nominated, it's just something that came to my mind and something I wanted to show you and demonstrate to you as a bright example of what Moroccan students, for example, are choosing. So that will be interesting. We have a lot of engineering faculties where Moroccan students, by the way, are also choosing themselves and making the priorities, taking into the account the digitalization being and happening is our having us normal or becoming our part of normal life. So of course it's not only Kyiv but many other cities where the universities are educated for that, and so the Moroccan cities students and applicants are visiting Ukraine for that.
Okay, thank you, Professor Victoria, for answering the question. Yes, I think there is another question. Yes, how about the age of study in Ukraine? I think this is a question. Yes, is there any limited age? I think minimum age is 18, right?
Yeah, of course. I think it's globally. So you have to have, when we talk about the bachelor program that you would like to apply to, of course, you have to have a school degree, what we call, right? So you have to, some universities or some countries call it degree. Some of them call it certificate. So it depends what kind of program you have in school. So of course, normally it doesn't matter. In my case, I was 16. Sorry for that when I graduated from school. So it was a highly competitive, in my case, to be a very young age to enter the university. So it totally depends on you. So I really want to motivate you to focus. If you are in school now and you are finishing or ending up this year, focus on your exams and focus to receive good marks, because it counts a lot especially when you're presenting your certificate or diploma. Again, it depends very much how it's called in your country, to the university admission or commission, and then of course for the ratings we definitely count on that. What will be your motivation to come to Ukraine, but also what will be your motivation to focus in our university, and why do you want to do that? What kind of background do you have?
Yes, thank you very much again for answering this question. Yes, if you have any questions, yes please, even in Arabic you can ask questions in Arabic. باللغة العربية ما كاين حتى مشكل. يعني قبل أن ننتقل إلى المحور الثاني يمكنكم أن تطرحوا أسئلتكم حتى باللغة العربية، سنحاول أن نترجم لها، وبالتالي حتى الإجابة ستكون مترجمة باللغة العربية. إذا لم يكن هناك تساؤل أعتقد أن ننتقل إلى المحور الثاني. أي تساؤل أو ننتقل؟ Yes. You already someone asked a question about scholarship, but you already answered these questions. This question, yes. Can you apply for job? Yes. Here is another question. Maybe if you get the diploma from Ukraine, can you get a job? Apply for a job in Morocco, or maybe not in Morocco, but let's say internationally.
Yes, I mean, it very much depends what kind of diploma and what kind of marks you're gonna receive there. Again, it's very individual in terms of because there are many students and there are various, and some of them succeed a lot, and of course when they come back to Morocco they succeed a lot within their practices and internship if they want to start their job opportunities already back home, and even applying for the job. So yes, it's competitive when you are studying in Ukraine. At the same time, it very much depends on you, because we as professors, or how we call us teachers, we've seen many students. Not all of them are very, let's say, competitive in terms of studying. So that's life, and we definitely understand that also what kind of experience you're gonna receive here. It totally depends on your motivation. So again, sorry for maybe repeating it again, but focus please yourself on your motivation. What do you want to do already? Let's imagine that you already graduated from the university. So what will be your goal? So what do you want to do with that diploma? Because finding a job, it's also an interesting thing. There are some, if you're highly competitive, the companies or let's say institutions will be looking for you, and of course the headhunters will be looking for you. And in this respect, it doesn't even matter sometimes the diploma, to tell you the truth. I've seen also in my life people who had a, let's say, very average or moderate degrees, but their ambition and their motivation and their, let's say, eager. They were so much eager to come and to work and to focus on their realization, so that it even didn't matter a lot. I'm always laughing, even if we are talking now about study opportunities and about diploma. Myself, I was only showing my diploma 2 times in my life, seriously. When I was applying for the PhD program, because you have to show what kind of degrees you received, and the second time when I was applying for the university position, so you definitely have to demonstrate. Otherwise, you know that it's not only in Ukraine. I mean, globally, if you apply to Ukrainian universities or to any other universities in the world, people are looking for people and their skills and how they are training their skills. So of course, think about the emotional intelligence and soft skills being a part of your life. And sometimes you can train them at the university, but it very much depends what kind of values you are putting when you are studying and what do you want to receive after that. So answering your questions, it can be yes and no, because it very much depends on your qualities and your ambitions, and of course how open you are to the challenges that the life is giving you. Believe me or not, I mean, it's a common knowledge, but still I have to maybe sometimes repeat that. Sometimes it doesn't matter what kind of diploma, it very much matters what kind of person you are. And people not choosing you because of diploma of Ukraine or any other country, they are choosing you because you are as you are. So they're choosing you as a personality. So think yourself already as a personality and focus and bring your chance to study to Ukraine or any other country with such a motivation. So with such a motivation that you want to build yourself as a personality. And the university and teachers who are there and the tools that the university are their only tools. They are not your solution. They are only tools that can help you in this way.
Thank you, Professor Victoria, for answering this question. I think no more questions. Let's move on to the next part. اوكي لما كاين حتى تساؤل نتمنى انها تكون جاوبات سي سالم على السؤال ديالو. يعني بصفه عامه هو التساؤل هو كيفاش انني نلقى الخدمه. يعني هي ركزت هنايا بان المساله ديال الدبلوم ماشي فقط انك الا عندك الدبلوم غادي تخدم في جميع الدول. يعني الناس ما بقاوش تيهتموا بالدبلوم اكثر ما انه تيهتم بالكفاءه ديالك وبالموتيفاسيون ديالك وبالاكسبيريونس ديالك وشنو الحوايج اللي يمكن لك تقدم كاضافه لهذاك الطرف الاخر سواء شركه او الدوله باش انك يمكن لك تلقى الخدمه ديالك. يعني خصك تونطي لا شونس كي تيقولوا وتقلب هنايا وهنايا وبالتالي حتى تحدد الاهداف ديالك فبالضروره غادي تلقى خدمه سواء في المغرب او لا في اوكرانيا او لا اي دوله اجنبيه. هذا يعني كان بعجاله الرد على التساؤل ديالك. Okay, thank you again, Professor Victoria. Now let's move on to the next part about which will be talking about the implementation of distance learning during COVID-19, the experience of your country, of course. You will share with us your experience. And before that, I would like you to give you a general idea about this experience in Morocco and how Morocco dealt with such new experience. Yeah, just to have an idea. And actually, bad experience. It was not successful. Yeah, because this is the first time we experienced such issue. So, you know, because of Corona, education here in Morocco is not the same anymore as before. Why? Because neither students nor teachers or professors thought that distance education would be on their agenda. And this is a big problem. The danger of the spread of the coronavirus in Morocco led to the closure of educational institutions throughout the country, as of course in other parts of the world. This is as a
closing physically or closing totally even for studies?
No, for studies. They cannot go to school or universities now. Students now are taking courses at home and online. Yes, this is as a preventive... Right? Yes.
Okay.
This is as a preventive measure to protect students and teachers from this infection. Maybe I don't know whether this is the same case in Ukraine, because here institutions, universities, schools, private sector, even and public sector, they close their doors, you know. So Morocco has never had any experience of distance learning so far. In spite of this, the Moroccan Ministry of National Education has decided to replace face-to-face or physical courses with distance learning and allowing students to follow their courses online at home. So public and private schools have used the technique of distance education via educational websites and social media applications like Zoom or let's say StreamYard, as we are doing now. This is as a necessary measure taken by the Ministry of Education to continue the process of learning despite the current situation or circumstances. So for the higher education, as regard of in higher education, each university has, let's say, added a box in its platform in which the students can find the day and time for the course online. It is also linked to what is called with Microsoft Teams and Classroom. These are secure platforms that facilitate teamwork via video conferencing and file transfer and even instant messaging between team or group work. This is another problem for the rural areas are deprived of distance learning because these platforms do not meet their requirements or their minimum requirements in the countryside. Why? Here, the Ministry of Education said that there will be channels of television broadcasting aimed to at providing educational content to the largest possible number of people, especially those who do not have access to the internet. So here we can also say in general that these measures are good or might seem reasonable, but if applied in a country where abject poverty represents more than 40%, this is according to the World Bank, and more than 50% in the rural areas, these measures will be or will seem rather incredulous. Why? Even most families in urban, let's say, centers lack access to the internet, and even those who are lucky, let's say, a few middle-class families who are lucky to afford, let's say, monthly data package subscription, and they can pay for that. But how about those who have many children? Okay, they cannot afford many computers, and if they afford the computer, how about the network and the internet access? This is a big problem. Let's alone shed a light on the what is called on people living in rural areas who lack basic access to life or modern life utilities like electricity, infrastructure, clean water, etc. So this is a big problem. We have another problem here when it comes to implement distance learning program. Those who are supposed to conduct learning sessions, I mean teachers and professors, are neither well equipped with electronic devices and reliable internet access, and no savvy enough to, let's say, with distance learning software and online teaching pedagogy. So this is a big problem. So distance learning, I can say, in Morocco was somehow okay, but we cannot say successful as expected because of these problems. Teachers, or let's say schools and universities, don't have what is called material and equipment or technical support resources to implement such program. So that's why this is maybe opportunity, paved ground, or may give the government a fresh impetus to think seriously of how to implement distance learning programs and how to provide teachers with enough, let's say, technical support resources, equipment, materials, and at the same time for students, especially those who live in the rural areas, they don't have even access to the internet and they are poor. So this is a big challenge for Morocco, and COVID-19 showed us that we are facing a very big problem. But maybe in the future, this pushed, let's say, the government to think seriously for future and best implementations for distance learning programs. So this is a general idea about what's going on during COVID-19 when it comes to distance learning programs. So I would like you to share with us your experience. And I think it's not the same, maybe the same way, because as I said, this is the first time Morocco has applied, or let's say tried, this experience. So it was not in its agenda. So
Nabil, thank you so much for
yes.
the introduction, because that gives much more of the opportunity for me to understand also other countries. So, and just give me, I know that we were about 1 hour, so we already run in 1 hour and 2 minutes. How many minutes do I have just at the same time to focus and box my answer, if you can?
Okay, let's say to answer, okay, 15 minutes, that's fine?
No.
10 minutes?
Yeah, sure. I mean, with 10 minutes, I'll be more than enough. First of all,
okay. Thank you.
Distance learning during COVID never experienced Ukraine also to have it, because we didn't have such an opportunity. But some of the major universities were kind of very much prepared for the situation. I'll tell you why. For example, my university and a couple of other universities, they already were preparing a lot of courses for the distance learning, just because international students sometimes prefer to have distance learning. Some of them, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear. Yes, I
Yeah,
hear you.
I can see you back. So sorry for, you see, sometimes it happens also here.
Yeah, this is a disadvantage of online remote learning.
Absolutely. And I totally, so it very much depends on what kind of university and how they were prepared before. So Kyiv Boris Grinčenko University was actually, I think, among top universities who were not having troubles. I mean, not so much having troubles with transforming their classroom studies into the online classroom studies, because we already had that. So that's totally an idea for you to about the things happening in Ukraine. Yeah, okay. And related to what kind of courses and what do we have and what do we do while having our distance learnings? Yes, we have the same kind of things, but also we're using the platform Moodle. I think you know about that. And we started to use that, let's say, when I was 4 years already at the university, we already were using 4 years ago the Moodle. So it means that we transformed many of our courses already for the distance learning. So Kyiv Boris Grinčenko University was very ready to support Ukrainian students within the distance learning during the COVID-19, and we are very successful in that. What kind of tools do we use apart from Moodle? Of course, it depends on what kind of content the teacher is providing, but Zoom and breakout sessions, for example, when you want to distribute your students into various groups to chat with them among themselves, or give separate assignments they are working. Microsoft Teams, but also Google Meetups. That's something that we definitely use in many, many sessions, even talking between the professors ourselves. We do not use so much of the StreamYard, but still it's becoming very popular. We are okay with already Zooming, as we call it, or Zoom diplomacy, and Zoom negotiations. Related to the challenges that you were talking about, the problems that the rural areas of Ukraine are having, they are the same as in Morocco, is what I could hear from your resume. Why? Simply because not every sector or any kind of rural area is having the internet access. So that was one of the biggest challenge for the rural students, but also school children to be in contact. So of course, even we started our Ukrainian school online within the TV channels. So TV channels where they were having the classes, and of course promoting that these classes are being accessible to any kind of student or scholar or pupil, how would you call that, having a chance, particularly those who are studying like within the, let's say, graduational classes, or those who are preparing their certificates, what we were telling with you before, and they are preparing for the applications to the universities. That's important for them, that they are continuing preparing severely and intensively for that. So yes, we had a lot of challenge and still do. And it doesn't mean that if my case is successful, that all of the cases are successful. So you are happy to have me in representing the university who was successful in doing that, but it doesn't mean that all of the universities of Ukraine were much successful. So it's very much to thanks to our leadership, of course, that they focused on, as I told you, 4 years already ago, on the distance learnings, and to the understanding that the educations will be online, and that universities, to be competitive on the market, they also should be thinking about their marketing strategies, how to promote their courses for many, many students, not only Ukrainian, but international students. So yes, regarding the professors, what you were telling, that not all of them were well equipped with we have the same problem. Of course, if you look at me, I'm myself, let's say I'm okay with that, but it doesn't mean that all of the professors or teachers were okay with that. And I'm just for you, for those who are students and applicants to be students who are listening to us today, believe me or not, to prepare one lecture online, you need 3 hours more to do that. That it's okay within the quality, that it is interesting, and that everyone likes that. Because the most important that we want that our students are being motivated in what they receive as a delivery materials, right, and tutorials. So it's much more in terms of professional burden that we receive within the distance learning. Why? Because it's much more of the emotional stress that we are receiving. And again, it doesn't mean that we do not like our job. Not at all. We love that. And therefore, we want to deliver the services like that are not only competitive, but they are also interesting. And in order to do that, we need also time. And as you know, particularly those who are teachers and who are listening to me, they will understand me now that if you want to be a successful teacher and that the students are motivated to continue listening to you and following your assignments, just not only watching me, you need to present a very interesting and competitive content, right? It's up to it. It's a cutting edge, let's say, content, but also with a interesting methodology and
So
interesting.
in this case, how do online? Yes, sorry for the interruption. I just want to ask you a question in the same vein. How do online teachers motivate students?
Oh, that's interesting. I can tell only about my own experience. So, I mean, I cannot talk about all of the experiences of my colleagues. I'm motivating myself with some online projects. So what I'm working with mostly with master students, that's also something very specific. I just have to tell it to you. With the, let's say, already 3rd year or 4th year of bachelor student, but mostly with the master students. So we motivate themselves with the interesting content and with the interesting projects that we can do together. I think, you know, I cannot stop being a teacher if I'm not showing it by my own example. So what you were, if you were reading my profile, yes, I'm working also as an expert in several fields. So like as a board member for Professional Governmental Association, which is an NGO, and we were doing projects there. So my students were watching that. So I was inviting them to join, not to work, but just to observe how it can be done, so that they receive some kind of the internships from that. So my example is, I mean, any kind of the student or any kind of the teacher has their own secrets, right? To motivate, because the motivation is something very much depends on who you are, but also who is your target audience. So I cannot motivate all of the students. That's impossible. And I don't have to do that. I should be a mentor to my students, and that's what I'm doing. I like to be a mentor for those who needs that and who can see from what I'm doing, let's say in my public life, so that they are seeing that I'm a team lead also for many international projects. So they want to receive that experience because it's a very practical thing, and they want to receive these practical skills and to train them, because they definitely understand that they will need that after they graduate. So for me, working with the students and motivating them, it's seeing in my students my partners in doing something together. And project team or project things is the best thing when you want to motivate properly your students. Again, maybe it's my little or small example in this thing, because I'm working already with mature people who are just, let's say, young professionals. With those, if you want to motivate the first comers or freshers from the 1st to 2nd year, it very much depends how do you motivate them to not to lose the time, but to use this time properly or accordingly, because time is something we will never compensate back or will never return back. So if you want to be lazy watching TV, you can follow doing that. I mean, it's not a problem. I mean, no one can guarantee that you cannot watch the TV. Of course you can, and I mean that's the challenge. But if you want to use this time because you definitely believe in your future and you want to build your career from your own forces, you will need to use your time efficiently and effectively. So that's what contends to the motivation. And of course, not all of the teachers are coming back to the things that you were telling me about the Moroccan experience. We also have the same. So not all of the teachers have this material equipment or material support, and I know the families who have many children and you have only one laptop, for example, and that's a challenge if you are a teacher in mother or father in your family and you have many kids who need this laptop and you are the only one who is using that. So they were even doing the turns, so it means someone was working from early morning, some of them in the day, some of them at night. So we have stories like that. So it's not new for Ukraine or for many other countries. I mean, Ukrainian example, Morocco examples are not unique. They are, that's the global challenge of what I think everyone was experienced. And here I'm thankful to my family who invested also time, because while watching or working yourself as a teacher, you don't see so much of your family because you're working much more than you would prepare yourself in the classroom. Again, as I told you, if you want to continue being a competitive teacher, you have to present a very competitive content with all of the tools and with all of opportunities that your students are also remaining motivated, as you were already asking in the previous question. So yes, there are professors like that, but there are also professors who still continue doing the job if they would like to. So and it's very personal, I think. And in my case, I'm very happy that I'm working within the university where you can see many motivated professors, and that's above all of the personal challenges. We will definitely do our job properly.
So if I ask you a quick question, what is the best thing about distance learning, in your opinion?
What is the best thing?
Yes.
The best thing is when you're learning, you are time saving. Why? I can explain it to you. Because you are not losing time coming from your apartment to the university. For Kyiv, as being a big city, it's 1 hour about if you want to travel from some area. So you're economizing your time. For professors, you're not economizing your time because you're spending more into preparing the content. And
so yes,
that you have access to major programs and major universities, even for low admission or even for free. It's something that never existed before, because each and every university, for example, I'm having some programs, even Michigan University for a moment now, I'm studying myself because I want to, to receive more. And I think it's one of the biggest things that we receive from the distance learning.
Okay, don't you think, in your opinion, that distance education is creating unjust inequalities among Ukrainian students? Because some have access to the internet, others don't. So don't you think that this is a kind of inequality?
I do, and I don't say that it's not a problem. Therefore, I was continuing the same examples as Moroccan people are having, like both students, parents, or professors or teachers. It is, because here we have to talk about equal opportunities for everyone, and if we would like to have them, so of course we will need to present these services accordingly and appropriately, right? It is. I mean, and to some extent here, it's very much depends what kind of investment and what kind of funding the National Ministry of Education or institutions that are corresponding to the education are investing in order to overcome this burden. And how much do you have the business support, by the way? That's also interestingly important. For example, in Ukraine, we have a lot of companies who are supporting also the educational institutions within the distant learning things or tools. For example, Microsoft companies having given a lot of accesses for free for the universities because they want to grant this, both students and professors equal opportunities for that. So, or any other companies. I mean, it's not promo of Microsoft here, not at all. So, I mean, even the Ukrainian companies in our case, but I believe also Moroccan companies, businesses are investing and they do that consciously in order to make distance learning sustainable and affordable for everyone. We do have such challenges, and I think it's not the end of this challenge.
Okay, thank you, Professor Victoria, for answering these questions and for such informative and interesting talk. I think you covered many issues. Now let's move on to questions. If you have any questions, anyone has any questions, I'm sure Professor Victoria would be pleased to answer all of them. Yes? إذا كان هناك أي تساؤل باللغة الإنجليزية أو باللغة العربية حول هذا الموضوع distance learning، يعني التدريس عن تجربة التدريس أو التعليم عن بعد في أوكرانيا، فمرحبا بكم. يعني سؤال بالعربية وبالفرنسية والإنجليزية أو أي لغة حتى الأوكرانيا، فمرحبا بكم قبل أن نختم هذا اللقاء. إذا كان هناك أي تساؤل فمرحبا بكم قبل أن نختم هذا اللقاء. شكرا على تتبعكم. We really do appreciate your interest in this very important issue, and thank you for joining us. Maybe have even people who follow joining us for this event, maybe from China, and so thank you very much. Yes, any questions please? أي تساؤل؟ إذا كان أي تساؤل حول موضوع تجربة التدريس عن بعد سواء في المغرب أو في أوكرانيا قبل أن نختم هذا اللقاء. إذا كان هناك أي تساؤل مرحبا بكم. Yes, thanks all for you brothers and sisters. Okay. إذا كان أي تساؤل فمرحبا قبل أن نختم، يعني دقيقة ونختم إذا لم يكن هناك أي تساؤل. So one said that you already give them the information that they need. So you already answered their questions.
Don't hesitate to put the questions under this video. So after you will gonna watch it again or listen to it, I'll be happy to answer to them back. So thank you again for your activity, and thank you for raising the questions. I believe that now you will have more information about Ukraine, and definitely it could be or it will be one of your destination priorities for the international study opportunities. We definitely would like to have you with us, and we hope that any of the universities mentioned by me, or any city, or any other cities and universities will be more than opening the doors for you to do that offline or online, because I believe in half a year we still will focus much more on the distance learning that we used to be ever before. So thank you again for this opportunity, Nabil, and I really hope with a warm heart and with a warm greetings from Kyiv, from our capital, to you.
Thank you very much.
I wish you really success to all of you, those who are watching us as well, that you know what you want, and you definitely understand what's your motivation, what stands behind you. And if you're opening your heart enough and your soul enough for that, the opportunities will definitely come.
Okay, of course, we will share with the audience the link to the webinar recording, okay, if you want to watch it again. And if you have other questions, you may type them. I think we come to the end of our event. I think there is no question here. Yes, yeah, not so from say hi all. So someone said last word from say hi to all Ukrainian people from Morocco. Yes.
With a great
They send
pleasure.
his regard to Ukrainian people.
Moroccan people.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Victoria, for your actually informative and interesting, insightful actually presentation and talk. You covered many issues, and I'm happy, I'm honored to have you today with us. It's a really great pleasure for me, and maybe I declare this webinar officially concluded. Okay, yes, last word, yes. Professor Victoria.
So and again, don't hesitate. The new future come to you. Open the doors for it. That will be my motto for you. And if I can motivate you with this, or Nabil can motivate you with this and other videos, I think we're doing our job properly. And please open your eyes and heart much broader, because there are a lot of opportunities coming, in particular within 2020. So don't hesitate that COVID-19 gonna stop you with the learning opportunities. Vice versa, it's opening much more than we used to be ever in our history. So thanks again. We will be waiting for you in Ukraine. With a warm pleasure meeting you here online.
Sure. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this event and see you next time, inshallah. Bye.
Bye, everyone.